going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our Wealth and Wisdom Breakfast Club. We are delighted that you're here, and we've got our special guest, Paul Valentine, and we have our dear friend, Chris Day, going to be doing the official introduction. Chris?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Chris Day. I get to work with the great folks at Purpose Benefits. Purpose Benefits collaborates with Andersen in events like this and in the market, and we are thankful to be able to introduce Paul. Krista and Catherine, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Today, folks, you are in for some learning on commitment to client service, commitment to family, commitment to this thing we call the entrepreneurial pursuit, commitment to the people that we work with and for, commitment to the community that we live, work, and play in. Paul Valentine has some great learnings to share. These are just a few of the headlines that I wanted to share to help introduce Paul. Community service includes, but is not limited to, Paul currently serves on the St. Mary's University Board of Governors as the vice chair. Paul is a director at large with the Calgary Villains Football Club and a past tour of duty. These are just a few of the headlines. A past tour of duty with the Calgary Stampede Western Legacy Awards Committee. Community investment. Again, these are just a few of some of the components that we can. There we go. Thank you. So community service is a core belief and value at the Valentine Group. The Valentine Group makes donations to charities locally. These groups include the Calgary Women's Shelter, now known as Fear is Not Love, CUPS, the Mustard Seed, Feed the Hungry, the Drop-In Center, In From the Cold, to name a few. Let's take a look at some of the recognition in the automotive industry. Paul Valentine has served as the chair of Volvo Canada Retailer Advisory Board for 18 years. The Calgary Motor Dealers Association, the Calgary Auto Show, as a member on the committees and the board. We're almost there on the end of the introduction. Recognition from his peers in the Calgary automotive sector. Paul earned the honor of the 2022 Alberta Dealer of Excellence. This award recognizes Valentine's exceptional commitment to client service, staff, industry, and the community in which he does business. In just a few minutes, Paul will share with you the 6 E's of client service. These client service lessons, which is on the menu today, we get to take them, they're universal, and we get to take them back to the way that we look after our clients and our people and our community. Last one before Paul, are you ready? Okay, jolly good. The 6 E's of client service have their DNA and why Valentine Volvo has also earned the President's Award 15 out of a 14-year run. So, I want you to get your clapping hands ready in just a moment. So Paul Valentine, dealer principal, Valentine Volvo, Volvo Cars Royal Oak, and Jaguar Land Rover Royal Oak. Please provide a warm Andersen welcome to Paul Valentine.
So, good morning, everyone. As you can see from my slide and from Chris's introduction, Paul Valentine, president of the Valentine Automotive Group, and I supposedly have both wealth and wisdom to share. Although since 2015 and the Trudeau government, I have a lot less wealth, but I have a lot more wisdom. Thank you for coming out to listen to my presentation this morning. So, who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, that's a good question. So, I'm born and raised and educated in Calgary, so that's got to count for something. I've been in the car business for 40 years. We've got four locations, 3 brands, north and south. And whenever I give a presentation or whenever I meet people, they're always like, are you related to? So yeah, yes, I am. So Ted's my father. We lost him a couple of years ago. My mother's at Providence Care. She's still around. And I have 5 brothers and sisters, Tom, Steve, John, Ann, and Catherine. John didn't come down for the Western themed Flames game. So most of you or some of you might know one of my relatives and they all say hi. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, the 6 E's of customer service is something we came up with a couple of years ago. And I think it kind of is unique in the automotive business because, you know, we come from a place where my dad was a Rotarian and Rotary was all about both sides need to win. So what can I do to make both sides win? So my father taught me this is the way we do business in the car business. So we came up with that. Number one question I get when I'm dealing with people is the tariff situation. So I've got some information on that. Most people, when they get me at the bar after a round of golf, want to know what car to buy, how do I buy a car, how can I make sure I don't waste a lot of time. So I save that for the end, because that's the best value that you're going to get out of me. And then some questions, Q&A if we have time at the end. So the 6 E's of retail. So people come to my dealerships to buy a car because we have experience and they expect that we'll be ethical and efficient. And they want us to deal with them with enthusiasm. And if things go wrong, they want us to take care of them with empathy and effort. Pete, you don't have to, I'll send you this deck, like whatever you want. You don't have to write notes. I'll give you this deck if you buy a car by Friday. So experience. Now you better write it down because I might forget. So we have new staff. We make sure they get all the training they need to be knowledgeable about the products, how to present, operate, and repair them. Nothing worse than dealing with a salesperson that knows less than you. So we ensure that all the training takes place before a salesperson interacts with someone, before somebody works on your car, before you deal with a service advisor. So we put a lot of effort in. So, and that could be weeks, that could be a couple months. So that's the first step. And that's probably the most important first thing you can do, hiring a new staff. So ethical. So this is ground zero. You have to be honest and open in all dealings. And if you don't know the answer, admit it and go find the answer. And the best example I have, and we had this delivery specialist, and I don't know if you know Jim Gillespie, head of the Calgary Motor Dealers. He bought a car from us and he asked the delivery specialist and said, I have a narrow garage. Is there a way that my side mirrors fold in so I can drive in and then drive out and open them and drive away again? And my delivery specialist said, I don't know, but I'll find out. She went and talked to a technical guy in the shop, got an answer, called him with the answer. He called me right away and he says, I've never had someone actually admit they didn't know the answer, go and get the answer, and then share it with me right away. So I was so happy. I went and bought her some cookies. So that was great. So that is really important for us to make sure that don't fake your way through it. Tell the truth, find out the answer, and then next time you don't have to fake because you'll learn it. So this comes from Rotary. This comes from the way I was raised. This comes from my father. Efficient. So we always make sure that we do the job quickly and correctly, and we don't want to waste the customer's time. We respect your timeline and judge accordingly. So what happens is you say, I'll be in at 2 to test drive this car. Well, you could show up at 1:30 or you could show up at 3. So we're ready any of those times because we're not gonna make you feel bad that you're late. Like that's not until you've bought the car. Then we change it. So we're gonna be very efficient. When we say we'll get you an answer to your text by 4 o'clock, we'll get you an answer by 3:30. When we say that we'll meet you on a Sunday, we're closed on Sunday, but that's the only day you can come. We'll find someone to come. Might not be that salesperson, might be another person who works close by. So we care about your time because you're the customer, right? And so I tell my staff, if we close at 7 and you're working to 7:30 to cover a guy, then come in a half hour late the next day. Like it all works out in the end, right? So don't nickel and dime overtime, whatever. You stay late, come in late. You come in early, you leave early. Like, well, it'll all work out in the end, but make sure that, respect the customer's time. Enthusiasm. We share in your customer's excitement in shopping and purchasing one of our vehicles. So this is important. I had a customer wanted to trade in a US car, and the salesperson said, oh, that's not worth anything. I'm like, well, what does that do to your relationship? Right away, you made him mad because you're assuming he made a bad purchase. So when you come in to buy a car, your trade is the best car I've ever seen. Any color that you want to buy is the best color we've ever had. The engine choice, oh, that's the perfect one. Like, we're going to be excited for you. Like, it might be the 5th car that this salesperson has sold this week, but it's the first car you've bought in 3 years. So we're going to be really excited about whatever you decide. And that's just basic common sense. I had a sales rep come to me and Pete, like you and I'm a huge Stamps fan. This guy comes into my office and my office is full of Stampeder helmets and other CFL helmets. And the first thing he does is slam the CFL and talks up the NFL. Think I bought a car, or think I bought software from that guy? No, he offered me a Stampeder helmet that he won at an auction. I took the helmet and then he said, okay, now can we close this deal? And I said, no, right? Like you got to build rapport. Like I have a very good memory and I'm very spiteful. And so, and I always tell everybody, the moment my memory fails is the moment I retire because, I want to remember the people who are good to me and the people who are bad to me. I need to remember that even more. So my wife says that's kind of petty, but whatever. Empathy. We will apologize and recognize with frustration when something goes wrong, even if it's not our fault. And this is based on the Disney principle, right? It's not my fault, but it's now my problem. So any of my staff, there's an issue, solve it. Find a way to solve it. Don't put it to a manager. Don't give it to somebody else. Don't say, not me. Don't worry about me. So that's the Disney philosophy. And that comes from a Disney, like if someone in Fantasyland is lost and they want to go to Tomorrowland, that Fantasyland employee will take them over that. So that's what we do. Sales will help service. Service helps sales. Parts helps everybody. So that's what you got to do. This is the one that we struggle with the most. So it's the effort when there is a problem. So most of my time in my job now is listening to a customer, apologizing, and then finding a solution to it. And the thing about effort is that there's always infinite solutions to a problem. It's just how much effort do you put in solving it. So a customer comes in, you come in middle of October to get your snow tires put on. There's no loaner cars. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to get you an Uber. I'll drive you home personally. Like, what are you going to do to offset this issue? And there's always solutions. This part's on back order. Can we find a used one? Can we take one out of another car in the meantime? There's always a solution. There's always a way to make the customer happy. And that's what we always got to focus on. And so when I get an upset customer, it's usually that my staff did 5 of the 6, but they failed on the effort. They just said, I don't know what to do. Right? And like the other answer, if you don't know, find out, go ask a manager, find a solution, then come back to them. So this is the number one that we work on. And I tell them, my staff, you have infinite budget, infinite time, infinite resources, solve the problem, tell us what you did and how we can learn from it. So going forward, it doesn't happen again. So, oh, sorry. Oh, did you do that? What did I do? Let's start again. Okay, now tariffs. Okay, tariffs as of April 23rd, which is today. So I don't know if you heard what happened this morning. Probably 400 different things happened, but who can keep track? So I'll just go through basic. It changes every day. Car dealers, car manufacturers, they can't keep up. They're just going to be very conservative in their strategy. So Chinese-made cars are not a big issue in Canada. There was a time when the Chinese-made EVs were coming to Canada, but the Liberal government put 100% duty on them last year. So now we don't get any EVs. Hyundai, some of their cars are Chinese-made. They come here. Easy for them to switch to Korean or Japanese plants. So the Chinese cars coming to Canada, that's not really a big issue. And I don't think any of you are really dealing with that. Japanese cars, a bigger issue. The majority of the Japanese cars coming into Canada are US or Japanese made. A lot of the Japanese, like Toyota has a huge plant in Texas with Tacoma and Tundras coming out. So those tariffs, 25% on a Tundra coming to Canada makes them uncompetitive. So Toyota has said for cars going into the US from Japan, they're going to absorb the tariff. So interesting that they have that big a margin. Japanese cars coming into Canada, Liberal government said, if you manufacture in Canada, we won't tariff your US cars coming north. But that was 2 days ago. That could change today, right? So what usually happens in capitalism is the Japanese manufacturers will find a way to get a car that's tariff-free. So the Texas plant will probably make Tacomas and Tundras for US only, and the Canadian Tundras and Tacomas will come from Japan. And the plant that Toyota has in Ontario mainly makes RAV4s and Highlanders. So maybe they can change that to make Tacomas and Tundras, but they're all shuffling to make it, right? But every day, every week, Trump delays it another week because he gets meetings with high-end automotive executives and they complain, and so he delays it another month. European cars are the same as Japanese. Not a big issue for Canada. Mercedes and BMW have plants in the States that make SUVs that come to Canada. BMW and Mercedes can switch that to German manufacturing to bring over, but that takes time. So everything can be done, it just takes time. So when you're buying a car, right now, there's lots of cars out there, there's lots of choice, programs are pretty good, but if the tariffs do kick in, eventually the cheap cars disappear and the expensive cars with tariffs kind of kick in, so you gotta, time your purchase. European and Mexican made cars, this is the one that's so complicated that I spent most of this speech research trying to prep for this. And here's an example on a tariff. So this is a pickup truck made in Mexico. So the aluminum comes from Quebec and it goes to Toronto and it's made into a piston. The piston gets shipped to Detroit for machining and finishing, and there's 25% added to that because it's a Canadian auto part going to the US. Then when it's finished, it goes back to Windsor to be installed into an engine, and that's tax-free because the auto pact for the USMCA allows that to come in tax-free. So that engine then gets shipped to Mexico, and that is tax-free. And then that Mexican pickup truck gets shipped into the US for sales, and then that's going to face the 25% tariff on the non-US components. So the non-US components, they got to calculate that. And most of the time, any car built in North America is probably 85% US components. So then it's 15%, which is 25% of 15%. So it's like $5,000. So that truck's going to have a $5,000 tariff on it. Now it won't forward. Oh, there we go. So that's what it looks like. So that's what, right? So aluminum to Detroit to Windsor. No, aluminum to Toronto to Detroit to Windsor to Mexico, back to be sold in the US. Okay. Now here is a US built truck. So the aluminum comes from Quebec. It goes to Toronto to be made into a piston, which goes to Detroit to be put for machining and finishing. That adds 25%. Then it goes back to Windsor. That's tax-free. Then the engine goes back to the US and it gets 25% on that engine, which gets put into the truck, and now it's sold. But the majority of this car is built in the US, so now it's just the engine component that's 25% tariff on that. So who's going to calculate that? I don't know. They say they're going to take an average of that, and that's going to be the tariff, but they say on average it's going to add $5,000 to every car. Well, $5,000 every car puts them uncompetitive, so all of a sudden that's why the Windsor plant for Chrysler shut down. But now it reopened. So don't worry about it. It's not going to, it'll all work out. I talked to a couple of American car dealers, and they had their best March ever, because every American bought a car as fast as they could, a European or Japanese car. Their final Saturday in March was their record sales day for all of these guys. And one of my friends is panicking, and the other two said, this will be fixed in 60 days. 60 days. Car dealers in the States love the Republican government, and Trump will not let them get upset. So it'll all be solved in 60 days, is what they believe. Okay, here's why you came. How to buy a car. Okay, here's how you buy a car. So first, ask your friends what they like. Some people like the car they bought. Some people hate the car they bought. So they're the only people that will be honest with you in this whole transaction. Go up to strangers and ask. My brother has a friend who lives in Pittsburgh, and his wife said, oh, that Mercedes, that's the one I want. Go ask the guy if he likes it. So he tapped on the window and rolled the window down. It was Sidney Crosby. And he goes, hey, Sidney, do you like this car? He says, oh, it's my girlfriend's. I don't know. How is it? Oh, it's good. I like it. And then the guy said, So he said, oh, I just want to look at the back and get the model number. And then, so Sydney got out of the car with him. So, yeah, I should figure out what model this is too. So ask Sidney Crosby, ask Nathan McKinnon, ask Vernon Adams, ask anybody what they drive. So narrow it down to 2 to 3 makes, right? Every segment in the industry, there's 2 to 3 models available, right? So nobody has a monopoly. Like you don't have to worry about, these are the only guys that make the car I want. Every segment, small SUV, medium-sized pickup, large SUV, everybody, there's multiple choices. So narrow it down. Find the closest stores to your home or your office to buy from. So you may find a better deal in Red Deer, but during the ownership of that car, something's going to go wrong. You're going to need a favor, and the Red Deer guy can't help you as much as the guy down the street. So if you can, if you go in and they treat you terribly, don't give them your money. But most of them want your business, and the closer to where you live or work, the easier life will be when it won't start, or when there's a fender bender and when you need help. Nothing against Red Deer or Lethbridge, but if you buy local, they are much more likely to help you when there's a problem. So here's a good trick. So you phone the reception and you ask to talk to the longest serving salesperson in the store. So if he's been there a long time, you know he's straight up, or they're straight up. They're not manipulating. They're going to be the most professional salespeople. They might not be on that day or that shift. So leave a message to have you call back. Like if you deal with the longest serving person, guaranteed it'll be a much smoother and better experience for you. You might not get the cheapest price, but you'll get the best service. And then you value the two, right? Am I just in it for the price? A good friend of my father's a dentist, you know, he saw there was a white car and then there was a burgundy car. And the white car, because it's non-metallic paint, was $500 cheaper. And he was like, I should buy that, $500 cheaper. I said, you're going to own the car for the next 4 years. And every day you look at that color, if you don't like it, you're going to be miserable. And he said, you're right. So buy the car you want. Don't try to nickel and dime to get the extra penny if you don't like the color or any of the options. When you finally connect with that salesperson, drive exactly what you want. Drive the engine what you want and the size. Color doesn't matter. Most interior equipment doesn't matter, but don't drive the 4-cylinder if you really want the 6. Don't drive the 6 if you only can afford the 4. Like drive exactly what you want. And if they don't have what you want to drive, you got to go somewhere else to test drive it, right? Or wait till they get something in, because car purchase is the biggest thing you'll buy that depreciates to 0. Some stocks are that way, but the car, it'll go to 0. Nothing goes up. Maybe Porsche 911s go up, but everything else goes down. So this is a big, I mean, average car price in Canada now is about $48,000. And after 10 to 15 years, it's going to be worth $1,200. Okay. Like that's the way it is, right? So make sure you make a good investment, because if you buy something and it's the wrong car, drive it off the lot, you've lost 20%. And then you're competing against all the brand new ones at 0.9% financing. So you can't afford to make a mistake. Number 6, there's some exceptions because everybody's different with their financial planning and so on. But when in doubt, you should always lease. And the reason I say that is you don't want to own a depreciating asset. And during the life of that car, things go up, things go down. This is a really good model. This is a really bad model. So at the end of the day, you lease a $60,000 car. After 3 years, the buyout's $30,000. Maybe it's worth $35,000. If it is, you buy it, keep it, make that $5,000. If it's worth $25,000, you walk away. But the one thing is, you buy that car for $60,000 and it gets into a T-bone within 6 months. It's lost half its value like that. And anytime you try to sell it or trade it in, everybody's going to say, was that in an accident? And you're going to say yes. And all of a sudden the value is whatever people think it's worth. So I would say you lease it. And at the end of the lease, if you love it, you buy it out. And they always have low certified pre-owned programs to help you with the expense. If you don't like the car, or if it doesn't fit your needs, you return it. If you can make money on it, buy it and then sell it privately, sell it to a friend. But when in doubt, I would always lease. There's a kilometer thing, and there's all, based on if you can write it off or so on, but I always recommend leasing. Buy protection packages based on how long you'll own the car. So protection packages or extended warranty are wear care on leases, tire, rim, and keys. Like there's all kinds of programs to protect your investment, and especially extended warranties. Like if you keep a car 7 years, why not buy a 7-year warranty? They're way cheaper when you buy it at the start. And with the warranty, I always recommend buy the biggest deductible you can get, because you don't really care about the little stuff. Like if it's a $200 switch, you don't care about that. But if it's a $4,000 alternator or rear axle or something, you want that covered. So get the biggest deductible you can. And two things will happen if you buy an extended warranty. You'll need it all the time, which will say, thank God I bought that warranty, or I parked this car on Paul's driveway and leave it there. Or, boy, I bought this warranty and I never used it. Well, if you never used it, that means you bought the best car ever made, right? So if you bought the best car ever made and never let you down, then the small price to pay for extended warranty you never use. So make sure you get the exact car that fits your needs, right? Size, color, whatever you need, because they depreciate fast, and to get out of a car is tricky when it's new. And we talked about this with some of my new friends. Snow tires. Always buy snow tires, right? I mean, if everybody had snow tires, nobody'd be late for work. There'd be no backup on Deerfoot, so everybody buy snow tires. Used. Buying a used is similar, just a few little differences. So you're going to do your research online. You're going to go to Trader, Kijiji, Car Gurus, right? You're going to find the exact car that you want because your friend said it was a great car. Then you're going to find the dealership or the used car place that it's for sale, or you find privately, right? Whatever. If it's from a dealership or a used car lot, take a look at their Google reviews, and don't really look as much at the score. And I say that because our score is okay, but look at the comments from the customers and look at the response from the dealership. So we answer every Google review with my email and my phone number, and we apologize and say, what can I do to solve it? And my wife and I went to Toronto. I was in some conference, and I wanted to book her in a nice hotel, and I looked at the Google reviews of the hotel, and there was some bad reviews, but every review had a response from the general manager of the hotel that explained their point of view and what they can do to make things better. And I thought that's a good way to do customer service. Like if you see a place with 5.0 Google reviews, they probably bought reviews. But if you see reviews and then you see the answer from the management and they've answered each one, then you know they care about customer service, right? Although Pete the plumber, I think you guys are 5.0, and it's for sure 4.6, pretty good. We're 4.7, Pete. Same thing, get the longest serving salesperson, right? Go inspect, test the car. Most places will have the Carfax or the AMVIC repair sheet. Legally they have to show that to you so you can look and see what the repairs have been done and the history of the car. Has it been stolen? Has it been a write-off? Is it an American car? All those things. So you're allowed to see that. I always say take it to a third party to get inspected, right? So if you find a used Volvo at Henninger Toyota, you should take it to my Volvo dealership to get inspected, and we'll tell you the truth, right? And if it needs work, then you negotiate off the price, right? Like you're not accusing them of selling something that's not perfect, but you're just gonna, come back and say, this needs brakes, so there's $1,000, and like, you know what, this place says it needs brakes. Will you knock $1,000 off? And usually they'll negotiate and do that. So get a third party inspection done. And you're paying for it, okay? You're paying for it. Don't get the other guys to pay for it, because if they pay for it, they control the information, but this is your information. That's good. I only lost one guy to my speech so far, so that's okay. So buy an extended warranty with the largest deductible, longest term, and even on used cars, buy snow tires. Buy snow tires. If there's one thing, as you walk out the door, buy snow tires. Okay, so I gave a speech to Downtown Rotary last year, and they just wanted to know about BEVs, PHEV. They wanted to know about what powertrain to drive. So here are the 4 most common powertrains for sale in Canada. Internal combustion, known as ICE, mild hybrid, which is like a Toyota Prius, where it has a charging system that charges a battery, but it's not a plug-in. Helps with fuel economy, but it's not a plug-in. Plug-in hybrid, which has a gas engine and a plug-in system for a battery to give you pure electric drive. And the battery electric, which is, you know, the latest, greatest, hippest Tesla-like thing. So those are the 4. So I have a long presentation on that, but you guys have meetings. So I just summarized. Here is on a scale of 1 to 5. Here's what you can expect with each model. So purchase price, right? BEVs are the most expensive. Internal combustion are the cheapest. Okay, maintenance. BEVs need the least amount of maintenance, but what we're finding now is they go through tires very rapidly because they're really heavy. Maintenance on all the internal combustion ones are much less. Resale value, what we're finding now is that electric cars don't hold their value as much as internal combustion they do. Emissions, that's self-explanatory. And convenience, and this is still the infrastructure for charging, where's a charger, is it already occupied, and is it working, right? So based on that, you can see, on a perfect score out of 20, ICE is still the way to go in Canada for the time being, okay? So when I did this presentation, there was federal rebates on BEVs. So those have gone away. Will they come back? I don't know. Just as an aside, subsidizing rich people to buy electric cars doesn't seem like a good use for our tax dollars. If they really want to make a difference, they should offer that $5,000 to old cars to retire them off the road. Because if you got old cars off the road, not only are they much dirtier, it takes like 30 brand new cars to equal the emissions of one 1987 car. So if you can get old cars off the road, not only are the new cars much cleaner, but the new cars are much safer. So that's what the money should be spent on. It's called Retire Your Ride. We've had it over the years. The States was big into it a while. Get all the old cars off the road and scrap them, and you make it, then it's cleaner and it's safer for everyone. So, but with government legislation to ban ICE cars and with government rebates, you factor that in, and that changes the dynamics that the plug-in hybrid is probably the best way to go. Because the nice thing about a plug-in hybrid is if they ban internal combustion engines, a plug-in hybrid is an electric car, but it has a backup system that's a gas engine. And the way that they're going now with plug-in hybrids, the average plug-in hybrid probably gets 80 kilometers to a charge. Within the next couple of years, it'll be 120. And once you get to like 150 on a charge, 150 kilometers is pretty good for anybody to do most of what they need to do around the city. And then you have a gas engine when you go skiing or mountain biking or hiking on the weekend. So the plug-in hybrid is, and we're seeing that in popularity. That's probably our top seller. Okay, so what else? Well, you may have seen other types of powertrains over the years that are not yet ready for the mainstream market. And so here's some of the pros and cons. And so I'm giving you the sneak peek. So at cocktail parties, you can act really smart about the next technology. So the first one is nuclear powered. So this is a 1981 DeLorean. It's built in with the Mr. Fusion device invented by Doc Brown. For my research, which was watching the movie, it's zero emission. It runs on garbage, banana peels and coffee filters, based on what I saw in the movie. The cons of this is that time travel is always risky, and they always complain about something with the space-time continuum. The next one is magic powered. So the nice thing about magic power is it's zero emission, and it would also cut air travel emissions too, which is a big part of the climate challenge. The negative is that muggles don't believe in it, and a muggle is a person who lacks any sort of magical ability, a non-wizard, as per the Harry Potter world. My wife said I had to explain that. And they're very noisy, which is why Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So they're quite loud. The next one is love powered. So thanks to babies and dogs, love is everywhere, right? So infinite fuel. And based on my research of watching Herbie the Love Bug, this is a 1963 Volkswagen Beetle. It's autonomous driving at its best. Like, you tell Herbie where to go, it drives you. And if you tell it to go somewhere you shouldn't go, Herbie won't take you there. Like, it's very efficient. It's very fickle. It's very stubborn, is what I learned in the movie. And driving a love-powered vehicle is awkward when you're and your buddy are going golfing, right, Chris? Yeah. Next one is evil powered. So this is a 1957 Plymouth Fury called Christine. The pros, I couldn't think of any pros, but maybe fire and brimstone or carbon free. I'm not sure. Okay. But I do know that evil powered vehicles are impossible to insure, right? I found that out. Lastly, human powered. Okay. So this is a 10,000 BC Flintmobile powered by renewable Bronto burgers and Rocky Colas. I think it only gives off natural emissions like methane. The cons, it's very tough on your feet, terrible suspension. The seats are rock, the wheels are rock, so not very comfortable and not practical for Canadian and Calgary winters. So that is my presentation. Thank you for only one person leaving. That's a record. And I think my contact information is up there if you want to talk about anything or need any advice on a car. And I think we have time for some questions and answers. Go.
Yeah, hi. So thank you first off for your presentation. That was very awesome. I think I will go for, I'm not sure which one. I'll pick my car later. Opening it up here for you guys on any questions for Paul on what you heard, either on the ease or buying a car or trades. Opening it up for everybody in here for some questions.
Well, Paul, I'll start it off since you threw me up there with this.
Thanks, Pete.
Auction. I don't need that.
So I'll put it close to you.
Okay, you put it close to me. Going back to the 3 E's. Okay, and you were talking.
There's six.
Six. I got the 3 important ones about 6. You were talking about your employees and efficiency and all those things. How many chances on the average do you give an employee before you have to say you're going to have to find fame and fortune somewhere else? How many times can somebody fail before you say, this bracket isn't for you, go be a plumber or something else, okay?
I think that you give everybody the benefit of the doubt once, including a client. And the second time, you either know what they're about and if they can do the job or not. So we give everybody the benefit of the doubt once. And sometimes what the lesson is that this career is not for you. Tough love, Pete. Tough love.
Anybody else? This is why I didn't wear heels today.
That was a great presentation, Paul. Really interested. We in Calgary don't get many chances to have people from the auto sector speak to us. So you made an interesting opening comment about the Trudeau government. I'm curious if you could, as a longtime Calgarian, and clearly understand the economics and the economic situation we face as a country right now. There's a very stark view in the two front-running political parties. One that clearly sees the energy sector as a very important thing, and the other party, maybe not so much. And obviously your family, longstanding history in the auto sector. How do you see it both as a Calgarian and somebody who understands the economics from an Alberta perspective, and obviously a family that's got deep investment in the auto sector. I'd be curious about how you see the political situation.
Yeah, so Volvo has become the green car maker. And I've been telling them for years that it's not going to happen. Like you can't, like pure BEV, banning ICE. If you live in Madrid or Rome or Berlin, maybe, but not Canada. And I said, you're killing Western Canada, especially because it's too cold, distances are too far. So Volvo went their pure electric route and it was a complete disaster. And now they're backpedaling and bringing out plug-in hybrids and so on. We opened this Jag Land Rover dealership the same time the luxury tax came in. And all the luxury tax did was stop people from buying nice cars for about 4 months. Then they started buying them again. And the revenue, the amount the federal government spends collecting the luxury tax is less than what it's generating. Like it's ridiculous to make this federal government is on this green dream that has no impact on the world. Canada's 1.8% of carbon emissions. All of my cars produce carbon, and they're all way more efficient than they've ever been, and they keep getting more and more efficient. So it's really frustrating as a prairie dealer, not just Alberta, because Saskatchewan and Manitoba, we have the same things, that this federal mandate to go all electric by 2035 is going to be a disaster. Like when we go to meetings, we joke that Canada will be like Cuba, where all the cars are 1955 Studebakers, right? And they'll be mint because no one will buy a new one. And then the car manufacturers, and I love capitalism because capitalism finds a way around everything. Like if the final model year of an electric car is a 2035 Volvo, whatever, well, that model would be built forever, right? We'll just keep building it until so they'll say, okay, by this date. Well, then at this date, are they going to ban used? No. So then every new car in Canada comes in as a used car. Like we'll find ways around it because you can't force a middle to low income rural prairie person to buy an electric car. They won't be able to afford it. They won't be able to charge it. They won't be able to afford to repair it. You know, the one question that nobody ever talks about is the cost of the battery after 10 years, because those batteries, they're not recyclable. They're not renewable. You know, when one of my slides was the maintenance cost. Well, when you look at the amount of EVs that are written off with very minor damage, because once that battery gets a small impact, no insurance company wants to cover it. So they just write the car off. So insurance premiums are going up for EVs. They're writing off cars that are still working, but it's too risky because all the fires. You know, I'll tell you a story, and this is me. I went to a Volvo meeting in Toronto, and they had a panel. Globe and Mail hosted a panel, and they talked about EVs. And I walked in, and the head guys looked at me, and they said, "Are you going to behave?" And I said, "I always behave. I'll be friendly." And they asked everybody, "What's the biggest roadblock to EV adoption?" And the scientists said, "You know, it's inconvenient for people to, you know, get home charging and charging at work." And I gave him that one. And then another guy said, "Oh, well, you know, it's the cost and people aren't, you know, afraid to put money into new technology." And I gave him that one. And then the head of ChargePoint, and I don't even mind saying the company because they're going bankrupt. ChargePoint said, "The biggest roadblock to EV adoption is the constant propaganda by the fossil fuel industry on how dangerous EVs are." And I lost my stuff. And so I put my hand up for a question. I go, "Propaganda is a very strong word. What are you talking about?" And he said, "We have a marketing department and a PR department, and we can trace every video of a Tesla on fire or every video of a freighter full with EVs coming out of Europe that's on fire off the coast of Netherlands. We can trace it to an oil company's social media account." And I said, "You're insane. Do you think oil companies care about that? They don't care at all. They're making so much money producing a good that the world wants. They don't care about Tesla's on fire. Tesla's their own worst enemy." Like it was very, very embarrassing. And the dealers, the car dealers, and most of the car manufacturers are on side with, I think, the majority of the people in this room. But you can't say anything, right? Because you get legislated. Like this federal government's trying to make it illegal to promote fossil fuels. So does that mean I can't even talk about fuel economy? So I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
And I took a picture of your how to buy a vehicle because it's sort of the process that I've followed. I got a mild hybrid, I got a hybrid, and I got a plug-in hybrid in my garage. But plug-in hybrids have been really hard to get your hands on. I think Toyota had a 2-3 year lead time, and I don't know what yours is, but is that supply starting to balance where there's more availability with those?
Yeah, so first, I don't have any cars that are going to be hit by tariffs because the only American cars I sell are EVs made by Volvo in North Carolina, and we don't sell enough, so we're okay just taking the European ICE cars. Plug-in hybrid supply is getting much better because people see that the BEV demand is way down and the PHEV demand is way up. So that's what they're putting all their money into. So now it's much easier to get it. The fact that you have 3 cars, I want to give you my card before I leave. So thank you for that. And it's interesting with with not only the cost, but in the future, plug-in hybrids will just get more and more efficient, and internal combustion engines just get more and more efficient. So like by 2035, I think you'll have a plug-in hybrid that'll get 300 kilometers to a charge and have a gas engine that'll go 500 kilometers. So it's the perfect balance, and it'll be the same price as an ICE today. Because technology, as we know with carbon capture, technology solves all of our problems, right? And that's what people have to trust, is that technology, and companies will do the R&D and research what people want to make their life more convenient, right? And the government doesn't have to force it.
Paul, I'm just curious, what has been the biggest challenge for your family in working all together with your brothers and sisters? And outside of those, the ethics your parents taught you, like what's been the opportunity that's maybe bound you together? So the challenge or the opportunity as a family?
Yeah, I have 5 brothers and sisters, and my dad, and we're Irish Catholic, so we go to church and we drink. My father said growing up, he said, all I need in life is a lawyer, a doctor, a priest, and an accountant. So my oldest brother's a lawyer, next guy's a doctor. The priest became a professor at Grant MacEwan up north, and I was a finance major, but I did all the accounting for him, right? So my dad raised us to be, the most important person in your life is family. It's all family and siblings, and so we all worked there growing up. No one was interested except for me, and I was lucky enough to be the dealer during the boom times in Alberta. So, but I know that I'm only as strong as my reputation. And I'm turning 60 in July, and so you start thinking about legacy. And do I want the church to be filled with people who thought I was a good guy, or people I owe money to? And so that's how we kind of always live our life. And so my brother, the lawyer, helps me a lot with legal stuff. Everybody needs a doctor in this province. So my brother there, and the other siblings, one of my sister works with me as a marketing guru. So we get along quite well. And I think it's all because of my parents and the way they raised us and got us going together. And so, excuse me, the one management thing that my dad kind of taught me, and it's really worked well with my siblings as kind of a strategy, was, and my dad didn't even know it was called the Southwest Airline strategy, but he said, if we keep the staff really happy, they will keep customers happy. And if the customers and the staff are happy, then the bankers are happy, or Volvo's happy. So we do. And then one day I said, hey, that's the Southwest Airline. And my dad was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But our focus is staff happy first. They'll keep customers happy. And if you have customers that are happy, you make a lot of money off them. And if the staff and the customers are happy, then the bank and all the stakeholders are going to be happy.
You know, with a business that is obviously a family-run business that's has strong values, how do you approach bringing up leaders within a growing business? Developing leaders, you know, from the ground or bringing them from outside. What's your perspective on that?
You know, the car industry is called the last bastion of the Wild West because we do whatever we want, right? We sell under cost and try to make it up in volume. You know, we refuse people's business because we don't like their politics. Like you can do anything, right? And it's the Wild West. And I was talking to some dealers, and we always made a mistake about bragging about only hiring from within. And what we found is hiring from within, usually we're promoting people past their optimum position, right? Is that the Peter principle? So we encourage internal hires to apply, but we'll get the best person for the job regardless of where they came from. Both of my Volvo stores have new GMs, both from outside. Nobody from inside was qualified to do it. My son, who will be fourth generation, he started to work, but he's got 15 years to develop as a leader before he gets a position of leadership. And I've challenged the other leaders to help me develop my son. So when the time comes, he's ready to take over. So yeah, we give everybody internal an automatic opportunity to apply, but no guarantee because we don't want to set them up. Just like with your kids, you don't want to set your kids up for failure. You don't want to set up your staff for failure.
That was partially answered already, and thank you for your presentation. That was great. But you were successful. Your father was successful in transitioning the business to his kids. What is your strategy around transitioning to the next generation?
Yeah, I have in the North stores, I have a partner from Saskatoon, Wyatt Auto Group. And so he's pushing 70. I'm pushing 60. His boys are 40. My kids are 20s. So we have good overlap to have coverage for leadership generation. If my kids aren't interested, I would sell to him. If my kids are interested, I'll have my kids work with his kids to develop the next step. We have some land up north that we're looking for another brand. So my plan is my kids. My oldest is, she's an HR director at Wood Engineering. I need an HR director. She's not ready to work for me yet. And my youngest is in university and I don't know where he's going to go. So there's always a role for them. But what I learned is that, you know, just because your name's Valentine, you got to get your coworkers respect, and your coworkers respect is working harder, showing up early, going home late, doing things nobody wants to do. And that's how you get that. So that's what I'm doing with my kids. If it works out, great. If not, our buddy Dan Adams always told me, he said, you know, set your kids up for success. If it's not in the car business, take some money and invest in a career for them that they want to pursue, right? We thought about a plumbing business, but it's tough in this town. Like the competition's too fierce out there.
All right, we have time for one or two more. Anybody else have a question?
Paul, the investment in the Calgary Stampeders, the social investment, thanks, Krista. Paul, why does Valentine Volvo Group work with the Calgary Stampeders, for example? What's the relationship and what's the high or the low self-interest?
Yeah, so I mean, I love the Stamps. I love football. I love Calgary sports, Flames, Stamps, Calvary, Hitman, Wranglers. Just look at the back of Pete's van. Those are the same teams I support. My father came home from UBC in 1951, and his father said, if you want the team to survive, you got to buy tickets. So I want Calgary to be a strong sports town, so I support and do that. But you know, your question triggered, I met a guy at a thing, and he said, oh, you sponsored my kid's hockey team. And I said, yeah, probably. And he said, oh, thanks for that. And I said, oh, thank you. Like you paid for one set of jerseys with that car you bought. And so we're joking around. And I said, and then he said, you know, in fact, I see you sponsor everything. And I'm like, yeah, after Pete the plumber, I probably sponsor the most stuff in town. And then I thought about it, and I turned to him and I said, you know who doesn't sponsor anything? Tesla. And we're like, yeah, that's right. They don't spend a dime in Calgary. They sell a lot of cars in Calgary, and they don't put a dime into this because they're an American multi-global company. But none of the money goes into Canada or into Calgary. And if you drive anywhere in Canada, any town, the car dealer is the biggest supporter of the community, right? So it's part of being, giving back. Like we, as a Catholic family, and you mentioned who we support. We give a lot of money to Feed the Hungry, In From the Cold, Calgary Women's Emergency, Cups, Drop-In Center. We give money to all these groups because those are people who will never buy our car, right? So is it the Beatitudes or is it the Robin Hood syndrome, right? You come buy a Jag from me, I'm going to make good money on that, and I'm going to give it to people who can never afford it, right? And that's, if you operate from that kind of charitable bent, it's easy to go to work every day, right? Because every day I know the more we sell today, the more we give back to the community and the more we help the homeless and the underprivileged, right? So, and that's same with the stamps, same with the flames, right? The more we make them, the more that, the city, this makes the city a better place. And I love the fact that I have one GM who's a huge wrestler fan. Like he loves pro wrestling. And I said, it's fake. And he goes, no, don't go there. But when you see the kids, and a lot of them are special needs, how passionate they are about pro wrestling or a Flames game or a Stamps game, you're like, you know what? Just for those kids alone, it's totally worth supporting all these ones because that's probably one of the best times of their day or week is going to watch their favorite team play or their favorite wrestler jump on a guy, right? So all about community, making Calgary the best place around, right? So we'll take care of Calgary. We'll take care of some of Alberta. The motor dealers take care of Canada. And then through my mother, we take care of some orphanages overseas. But, just pay it forward and use a luxury good that nobody needs. Okay. You heard, nobody needs a fancy car. Like every car will get you from A to B. So using a luxury good that nobody needs to make the community and your neighbors better. And just to finish on a political note, when Trudeau ran in 2015, my wife said, give him the benefit of the doubt. And the very first thing he said is small business is just an excuse to avoid paying taxes. That's what he said. First thing he said. Second thing he said is, I'm Catholic. He says, I don't care how good you are at your job. If you're not pro-choice, you can't be in cabinet. And I thought, you would have the best financial mind of a century. And just because the guy's a devout religious guy, he can't help his country. So I knew back in 2015 that this was going to be a bad, tough 10 years. But I'm off topic. I'm sorry. Thanks for coming.
Well, it's a timely topic, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
No, I got a 9 o'clock call, so I got to run.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you, Chris, and Purpose Benefits for being Andersen's friend and some butter parts from Miss Catherine Brownlee. And Paul, thank you so much for coming and sharing. And just, I know you support Feed the Hungry, so I'm going to plug that. I'm a big supporter. I'm there almost every weekend volunteering, feeding at the Hungry. And here we've also made a donation to the mustard seed and some wonderful butter tarts from Miss Catherine Brownlee. And we really appreciate you coming and just sharing and being real, because that's what these are all about, is sharing the realness. So thanks, everybody.